computer because that. Okay, welcome to the second 2023 first virtual book party, where we as a group of poets have a chance to present our books, speed date, speed market, however you want. I'm going to do a quick demo of how this runs in case you haven't seen us before or haven't participated. I never know how well this shows up, but this is, I completely wiped myself out. This is my third book of poetry, Leave a Light On, and I'm going to read a quick poem from that. This is one of the shorter poems in here, and I wrote it for New Year's Day. Who knows what year? Doesn't matter. It was New Year's Day, and it's called Unresolved. I am the suspended fourth, diminished fifth, augmented sixth, never the tonic, subdominant, or dominant seventh. There are no octaves, no harmonics here. I am the new year, full of what ifs, empty of done deeds, a leading chord, unresolved. And those kinds of delightful poems are why you should be buying this book. We're all done, and I am ready for my co-host to jump in. Tom Zampino, you are up, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. As Jim mentioned, my name is Tom Zampino, and my quick background, I've been an attorney for 40 years, almost 40 years, and only in the last few years have I been writing poetry. I've had 2 books published since 2021. The first one was self-published. The one we'll read from today was published by Southern Arizona Press, and they did a great job. It's called Synchronicity. It was published in January, and it's available on Amazon. I'll put the link up. It had a fairly decent review recently on the media, so I'll also share that link if anybody wants. This book was a labor of love, and as I've mentioned, the title has been Synchronicity, which is kind of the thought process here for this entire book. Some of the things that have happened in my life that I've observed over the years, and it showing the things that have been coincidences or not coincidences in my life. But the poem I'm going to read today is a little bit different from the book. This is actually a friend's story, and the friend lost his child within the last year. And the friend lost his child because his child was transitioning and the surgery was botched. And so here's a copy of the book, Synchronicity, and I'm going to read the poem called First Breath, Last Breath, A Father's Cry. It's not my story to tell, not my tears that have fallen, but who can listen without completely breaking? In the birthing room to cut the cord, to hold the child, to dance with the first breath. In the ER, to researcher the wounds, to hold the child, to rage against the last breath, rebuking the healers, despising the hour, coming full circle, and ending without closure. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Next up is Rosemary, who said she may not be able to join because her camera and microphone pooped out on her. Let's go to Shoshauna. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So my 5th book of poetry, I'll try and get it up here so you can see it, is titled The Splash of Easy Laughter, and it was published by Kelsey Books, and it deals a lot with family life and raising children. And the one thing that I have to say for this collection is that I enjoyed so much putting it together. There were just, I remember laying all the possible poems out on, I was at an Airbnb, and I just laid them all out on this queen size bed and shuffled through, and I probably spent 3 days just trying to decide what would make a manuscript. And I was really happy with this when it finally came together. I had a career in cultural arts administration, but I left that to commit all of my time to the literary world. And so I've been writing poetry and flash fiction and doing freelance copy editing for authors. I spend most all my time in the literary world, which I'm just thrilled about. I feel very fortunate. So the poem that I will read is about an incident that I came upon. It doesn't really relate to family life, but this poem made it into this collection, and it's titled Yours Truly. And it was triggered by the most handsome barista I had ever seen at the local coffee house. Yours truly. One glance at your smile, and I pity every woman who has swayed in the circle of your arms, every tank top schoolgirl who met your banter in biology lab, then your lips behind the boathouse. Every drama club lead, soccer star, national merit finalist for whom you built a bonfire or escorted to the vineyard. All the college co-eds in the sailing club and on your dormitory floor who held you on a motorcycle, docked your boat, met mom and dad, fed your ego, fed your Labrador. I pity every ponytailed, green-eyed filly whose breath was sweet as lilacs, every San Diego blonde in tennis whites you swept to your chest, every Nova Scotia import whose jeans you unzipped at apple harvests. Your season's a symphony of say when, I will, and always, of yes, and now, and let me's. No lull in tilting grins, rippled whispers, cinnamon laughter. The carpet always rolled out red, the ship continually arriving, the whole world wishing, willing, ready to be yours.
Excellent. Make sure you post your book info in the chat. And let's go to Beth Copeland.
Hi. Hi. I'm in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, and I'm a retired English professor enjoying, time to write. I have 3 full-length books published, and the one I'm reading from is Selfie with Cherry. It's a chapbook from Glasslyre Press. And I just want to say that Amy Kay, the publisher editor at Glasslyre, is a wonderful editor to work with. I'm very grateful. And the beautiful art on the book is by the poet and artist LaWanda Walters, who some of you may know. This is the most confessional book that I've ever written. It was written during a time when I was newly separated from my now ex-husband and also newly sober. The poem I'm going to read is called, it's on the second page, and it's called Second Wife. 15 years ago, I drove south to see you as trees broke into bloom, redbuds, pears, dogwoods, and my heart unfolded like a bud closed too long in the cold. Later, I moved into the log cabin built when you were still married to a woman with chestnut hair that spilled around her shoulders as she knelt in the dirt as if in prayer, planting dozens of bulbs on the edge of woods. Sometimes I wished we didn't live where her daffodils burst yellow and green, worthy of Wordsworth's ode. Along a ditch beside the gravel road, a reminder of the life you'd shared with her. I wished I'd never seen the wooden box with recipes written in her hand on faded index cards, tomato and basil rigatoni, Amish bread, blueberry cobbler, and the wedding photographs stashed face down in the drawer of a bedside chest. I wished you'd never told me about the rugs she wove on a loom in our bedroom. I wished she hadn't left that green down-filled vest from LL Bean in the hall closet. It's not my style, I said, when you offered it to me. It looks like a life jacket. As I slipped it on, I hoped it wouldn't fit. I was tired of living in a house with your ex-wife's ghost. So sick of it. As I zipped it up, you said, "It's perfect."
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll talk more. Next up is Nancy Gents. Did I say your name
Hello.
right?
I'm okay now?
You are. Did I say your name right?
I pronounce it Jentsch.
Jentsch with, okay.
Jentsch.
I will remember that. Thank you. Go.
Yep. All right. So I'm calling in from rural northern Kentucky, just across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio today. It's a sunny day. It's very nice here today. And I'm going to be reading from my first collection. Oh, I'm not looking very good there. Let me do something here. There we go. So it's called Between the Rows and published by Shanti Arts in Maine. And the book actually began with a grant from the Kentucky Foundation for Women. And I was writing a series of poems at that time that dealt with a series of artworks done by a German mixed media artist. And so that was kind of the beginning of the book. And most of those poems found their way into the book, but the book kind of took off in a different direction. There are a few poems in the book that are COVID era, and that's one of the poems I'm going to read today that talks a little bit about experiences during the COVID period. So I'm going to read the title poem, the one I decided to read. So it's called Between the Rows, 2020. And just a little bit of background, I happened to be reading the novel by Erik Larson at the time called The Splendid and the Vile, about the first year of Winston Churchill's time in office in Great Britain. So I was reading all about wars and bombing, and then I was making some associations with feelings that we had during the COVID period. And then you'll see there's also a little family connection in this too. So Between the Rows, 2020. Stains wash out easily 29 years after these infant sweaters saw use. Wool dries while COVID's fog thickens and my thoughts fly. Land in London, June 1940. There, bombers would soon sully the sky, hammer panic onto death and grief, while young women, aglow behind blackout curtains, stripped stains from tiny clothes. Under masks, we too fold hope, my daughter-in-law and I, between the knitted rows. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Valerie Tennille.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here today. Let me pull up the right screen here. My name is Valerie Tennille, as Jim said. I was born and raised in Portsmouth, Virginia, which faces Norfolk across the harbor, and just a little bit north of North Carolina. I was a pioneer co-ed at the University of Virginia and graduated with a degree in English Lit, Phi Beta Kappa Chi, and Black Belt in Feminism. I relocated to Kansas City, Missouri in 1982, but I'll always consider Virginia home. Kansas City has too much to offer to move, though. We've got great restaurants, one of the best concert halls in the world, ballet, opera, 2 art museums, and the Writer's Place, which demands much of my time. My latest book, can't see myself. Okay. My latest book is 3 a.m. at the Museum. All of my books have been published through Kelsey Books. And it's mainly ekphrastic, as you might guess from the cover. It was named the director's pick for the gift museum shop at the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art. So my book gets to spend the night there, which has long been my ambition. More than half the poems are ekphrastic, and you can find most of those online at the Ekphrastic Review. Just look up my name in the archive. Editor Lorette Luzajic wrote the intro to my book, and in his blurb, George Bilger said, "My idea of a perfect afternoon would be to stroll through a museum with Valerie Tennille, learning how to see." So since most of the book is ekphrastic, I wanted to share an ekphrastic poem today, and I chose one that's not dependent on a painting so that you might not feel lost in what I'm saying. It's a gold breastplate from the Middle Period pre-Columbian Tolima region, 1 BC to 700 AD. A dead Tolima woman speaks to her shaman husband. Time shuts its door, keeps us from knowing the future from knowing us. Only after passing can I see the ghost-colored men who will assault Tolima, dig through the dust of our children's children's children. They will find many treasures, but not the truth. Your gold breastplate, born of the sun, will wink at them. Here lies a leader, a man of power, they will think, just as I did when the glint off your chest first pierced my heart. A warrior, they will say, never understanding our people prefer making music to bearing arms, or that the healing power in your hands, or that the power in your hands was healing. What will they think of me? Nothing. Like countless women before me, I leave the world, and history will speak not a word. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry, you're up.
Okay. Hi, I'm Henry Wilstead, and I'm a retired psychiatrist. And in my late 80s, approaching 90 next year. And I've been writing poetry for many years, but didn't publish anything till about a year ago. And this is my first book, Driftwood, and it was published in June of 2002 by Kelsey Press, and is available on Amazon and through Kelsey Books. I cover, in my poetry, I cover running. I've done quite a bit of running, and music, mostly jazz, and aging. And I live with my wife in the Boston area, but for the last several years, we've been spending February's in Sarasota, Florida, where we are right now. And what I'm going to read in my poem is called The Last Leaf. Stark blue sky, tree outside my window, one solitary leaf hanging from its branches, the frost-covered ground. Only last spring, it was hopeful, buds waiting to blossom to a vibrant green. Came fall, the green turned to hues of yellow and orange, sparkling like gems, the sun beaming on the leaves. The days grew shorter, colder, the foliage now brown and falling until one lonely leaf remained. I hold on like that leaf in the autumn of my life. My contemporaries falling as withered leaves. In time, I too will wither and move on. But for now, I will greet the sun and moon each day and remain hopeful for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. You got the right audience.
Good.
Kenneth, we are ready for you.
Okay, here we go. Hi, folks. I'm Ken Weene, and I read a lot of novels mostly, but not too long ago, Cyberwit Publishing contacted me and asked if I put out a book of my poetry. So I said, yeah, I would. And here it is. It's called Coursing. The photograph, by the way, is actually one I found of the lake in Maine, where I did a lot of my growing up, and where a good portion of the first part of the book, which is called Reliquary, takes place. I'm a retired shrink. I can't help it. That's how I think about life. And so that's what finds its way into much of my poetry. This particular poem is called Reflection on the Battle of Bunker Hill and All Those That Came After. In 6th grade, we took a class trip to a sacred place. Anthony and I held hands and swore we would remain friends, even though the next year we would go to different schools. This is where the colonists took their stand. The woman wielded a pointer as if it were a sword. Down there, the British soldiers massed. What did General Putnam command? Our teacher asked. Don't fire till you see the whites of their eyes, we all replied. Poor bastards, my best friend whispered in my ear. Poor bastards, battled at Breed's Hill. Just a minor miscalculation, like much of history, hit or miss. It's not so much what we've told ourselves as who has paid the price. The grunts don't get to see big pictures, just whites in some other nobody's eyes, the red that soaks the ground, and the trench in which so many die. The rocks and dirt don't care what lines we humans draw, what battles we declare we've won or lost. The red that dies today, the sight that's gone. The dead don't give a damn who's won because they, poor bastards, all have lost. Those poor bastards, all of them are gone. Anthony bought me socks for my 10th birthday, came to my house. We played Monopoly. When he left, my mother, deep in arbitrary rules and sanitary fears, said he was never to return. Using rubber gloves, she took that pair of socks, still in Woolworth wrappings, and threw them in the garbage. Throw them out now, she commanded. I wish I had snuck them out of that paper bag and worn them the next day. I wanted Anthony to know they mattered. A small gift, but in our town, such things counted. How many British did we kill? The guide asked. Her voice savored the carnage. Killing is wrong, Anthony whispered in my ear. That's why I want to be a priest. The last I heard, my friend, poor bastard, had died in Vietnam. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Our final presenter today is John Muth.
Hello, everyone. And given the gravitas of so many of your poems, I'm so glad that I'm going last because it's quite the opposite. Again, my name is John David Muth. The title of my book is Songs of Arthritis. It was published by Kelsey Books last year. I don't know if you can see it. It's a bit on the salty side. Songs of Arthritis is a satirical collection about coping with physical decline in middle age. The collection starts with the main character on the verge of turning 50, beset by an attack of osteoarthritis. The narrative continues with his attempt to live with this affliction while trying to ameliorate its effects. This is my 7th collection. This book and its 6 predecessors are available on Amazon. The poem I have chosen best suits the overall humor of the poem. It is called A Very Rude Nurse. I sit in the orthopedist's office while a stern-faced nurse sits at a desk with an open laptop. She asks me how many times a week I have sex and puts down none before I can respond. She asks how many times a week I exercise. I tell her 5. She looks at me and laughs, says she'll put 1. She then asks my family medical history, and I take a deep breath. Did anyone in your family have heart disease? Yes. Diabetes? Yes. A stroke? Yes. Dementia? Most of them. Arthritis? Yes, including me. Cancer? Yes. What kind? Lymphoma, leukemia, pancreatic, colon, cervical, breast, ovarian, liver, testicular, brain, and melanoma. She gets up to leave, tells me the doctor will be in soon, and not to die in the meantime.
I love it. I have been an RN for the last 42 or so years, and I probably knew that nurse as one of my coworkers. All right, a couple of quick things. Because I intend to put links on the YouTube video when I post it, I don't want, for example, I don't want to put Shoshana's email up on YouTube. So if you have a different link where people can purchase or some other way to contact you, that would be great. This is just wonderful. So much poetry. And as others have noted, and I mentioned earlier, when you get a feel for the poet along with the poetry, it makes a difference when you're reading the poetry. It feels more personal and more intense. I see we have Henry and Kenneth, both from mental health. I'm currently working as a psych nurse practitioner. Anybody else want to raise their hand and say I work in mental health? Okay. I absolutely love these book parties, and we're going to do another one in March. I will, within the next week or so, put up a link for an April book party. So those of you who are chomping at the bit to sign up will have an opportunity to do so. And I will try to make that announcement so you have a chance to jump in before the herd gets there. At this point, I'm going to stop the recording, and then we can just visit.